I'll tell you all about it.
That was real good. That was money, first of all.
Let's do another one.
Okay, so now we're live, I guess. It's kind of funny when you're working on like 10 megabits of Wi-Fi. Doesn't like it at all. If I could put the computer onto an Ethernet cable and plug it into the wall, I would, but I can't. That's how it goes. Anyways, guys, I am Chris Knight. You are watching The Real Review 3000. And today, as always, on Friday at 4 o'clock, it is our weekly wrap up. What does that mean? We're going to tell you what we did this week. We're going to tell you the streams we were on, the craziness we were on. As you can see by the thumbnail, normally shows you the people that I streamed with. Down in the description box, you'll find everybody's link. If I forgot somebody and or that somebody call me out. It's happened before. People have called me out, and I feel totally bad about it when I do it. Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. So let's start with how this week started. Basically, normally on Sundays is when we start our week, and we normally have the rule of three. We have the chaotic conversation and the chaos list on over at Chaos Central. And one of those is over here on the Real Review 3000 right now until we get up to 100 subscribers over at Chaos Central. But this past week, we decided to kind of take a break from it. There's been some, how would I put it? There were some events that happened in a few people's lives that really were more important than doing those streams. So that's kind of what happened with that. Hopefully we'll be back to that this coming up week, starting on Sunday. Maybe we'll start back up on Monday. I'm not sure yet. But our first thing we did this past week actually started on Saturday. So I do these on Friday. So the week, if I do anything on Saturday, actually starts on Saturday. And last week on Saturday, actually we're on Mary Mayhem's channel doing Shenanigans. Shenanigans is a crazy, fun stream. And we go ahead and we, do all sorts of crazy stuff. Improv, Wheel of Obscenities, Friendly Feud we did this week. We did it this week with Tom of Midnight's Edge, Robb of Midnight's Edge After Dark, BaldManBad, John, he was on there, JJ or Sith Lord, he was on there. Let's see here, who else? Andrew, Caffeinated Wolf, he was on there. HanStar was on there. We do a bunch of different stuff there. Like I said, improv, all sorts of fun stuff. So check that out. You can't check that out now that I think about it, but you can go over to Mary Mayhem's channel, sub to her channel if you haven't already, and consider being a Patreon. The Patreons can get to watch all of the shenanigans right afterwards. She takes it down. It becomes a shooting star stream, as she likes to call it. And yeah. So with that said, let's get on to what actually happened this week. We only did 3 videos this week. We had the weekly Rumble on Thursday to take the place of the normal video. Sometimes I do both. This week, though, we did two songs that the Warning have done. One was Dust to Dust. The other was Copper Bullet. And then we also did Bandmaid's song Dice. We did the music video of that. I've done a live review of that, but the live version just wasn't quite all there. So I was told it's probably better just to do the music video. So we did that. Yeah, and then like the weekly Rumble, which was with Ords Bored, the Gilkman, Thomas Gilkey, Scott of Sporking News Podcast, and HanStar came in and sat in for Drew Taylor. Also on this past Monday, I was it last Friday? Last Friday, I believe, actually. No, it was this Monday. Yeah, Monday we did a live stream over on Drew Taylor's channel, or SupremeHeretic, and we did a stream about sports, talking about sports opening back up and all that fun stuff, all the things that are going on with, and how they're going to do that exactly. As soon as we get some sports back, I think things will go to being close to normal in some capacity. I know this week on Sunday, they're doing a NASCAR race, and I know NASCAR said they're not going to do any races in front of fans. They're just going to do it televised, which I don't think hurt NASCAR. I believe NASCAR works pretty well on TV. Yeah, so, well, about this time, normally will copy this link to get into, put it in the chats and various places on Twitter that I talk to people. Trying to think what else we did. I think that was about it. Didn't do a ton this week. It's been a little slower lately, basically because I'm working all the time. I'm here so darn much. It's crazy. And yeah. Let's see here. We're going to go ahead and go into the other thing, the other areas, and start to put in the StreamYard link to anybody who wishes come in. Oh, let's do this. Sorry, guys, why I'm doing this. I mean, some people occasionally might have somebody that does this for them. Unfortunately, I'm here at work. I am myself, and that's it. Don't have a ton of we'll start with that and see what happens. So, anybody got anything they want to talk about? Actually, I'll tell you what. Ords Bored. Go check out his channel. Guy's severely lacking in subs. Not because he's not good. He deserves a ton more subs. But Ords Bored, a few videos this week. One was on Fraggle Rock coming back in, like, I can't remember what he said it was on. Shoot, I'd have like AT&T, Apple TV, something like that. They're coming back, but it's like 5-minute segments, and that's kind of interesting. I don't know what they're going to do with 5-minute segments, but hey, it's Fraggle Rock, and Ords and myself are huge Jim Henson fans. Absolutely, almost anything that Jim Henson or his studio has ever done, I'm on board for. Dark Crystal, Labyrinth, the Muppet movies. Yeah, I mean, just all great stuff. And to be truthful, I guess he also talked about the Labyrinth coming out with a second movie, like a sequel to it. And I was thinking, I was like, man, I'm not sure exactly how you can do that. I feel like you have to at least like pay some sort of homage to David Bowie, because I think David Bowie kind of made that movie. I mean, Jennifer Connelly was awesome. She was great in that movie, but it was kind of David Bowie that made that movie. I'm not really sure how they're going to do that. I mean, now, and then today, in the grand scheme of things of how political the climate around Hollywood and everything is, you can't really make the same movie where you had a anywhere from 14 to 17. That's about where Connolly's age in the movie was supposed to be. The girl that's in that is 14 to 17 years old. And here's this dude who's 40, 50 years old, basically has a thing for her. And it's like, in today's climate, I'm not really sure that can be made. So I'm not sure exactly what you would be making this movie about. I would assume you'd have to have the Goblin King. I don't know if they ever really established that he was dead. I don't think they ever established that the Goblin King was dead. I just think she broke free and got her brother out. I'd like to see Jennifer Connelly make an appearance in it, even if it was like her daughter's the one that goes time or something like that. Like maybe the Goblin King comes and steals her daughter or challenges her daughter or something like that. I'm not sure. But again, like I said, with the age thing, that seems very, very problematic in today's climate. Alysia, how you doing? Thank you for showing up. Appreciate it very, very much. Just putting out the link here. See here. This computer's super slow on this internet. I mean, using a work network and it's crazy slow. I mean, megabits is the max I've ever seen when I test the speed of it. So that's a bit of crazy there, I'll tell you that. Oh man, this slow. But if we get some people in here, we'll talk to them about that. Well, I just got done. No, God, no, Sean. Sean, I'll send you the link. Why don't you jump in here? Let's talk about this because I know you. I don't think you hate, the Jim Henson stuff. There's kind of some problematic stuff to this. I didn't know if you were available or not, Sean. I know sometimes you're streaming, so hold on just a second. I just sent you the link if you want to jump in. We have a good time talking sometimes. Am I wearing a bib? No, I am wearing my name badge. I am at work, of course. You should know that. Yeah, no, Justin Bieber, please, no. I think even on the original channel introduction that I did, I said we won't make fun of you if you like Justin Bieber, but yeah, no, not Justin Bieber fan at all. So that's just kind of how it goes. Yeah, but talking about is basically, she was a brat. That's putting it mildly, I think. If I can get some people in here, I'd love to talk about this whole idea of Fraggle Rock coming back for like 5-minute snippets and Labyrinth. Kind of dive into Labyrinth sequel. I'm really kind of interested to see how that turns out. I have seen bits and pieces of the Dark Crystal series, and I was really impressed by what that looked like. And I don't think it got picked up again, or I don't think it was meant to be 2 seasons. I'm not sure. But it looked really good. I heard good things about it from people who liked it. But Messiah, he still is a brat. Not was a brat. He still is a brat. You know what? If they had done it earlier, Sean, get your butt in here. I sent you the link. Get your butt in here. You got a new camera. You got a new mic. Get your butt in here. I mean it. Prince would have been an excellent choice. You know, maybe a few years before he died. That's kind of one of those things too, is we're talking like 1987-ish, something like that. As I look into this other computer that's got much better internet than this, but I can't use for this. So here, what year was Labyrinth? Sorry, mid 86. We're talking about Labyrinth, the movie. Have you not seen Labyrinth? Had David Bowie, Jennifer Connelly, bunch of puppets and Muppets and all sorts of crazy stuff. It was done by Jim Henson Studios. Had the guy in big, like with a giant head called Huggle. Sorry. Yeah. You haven't seen it? Oh my word. Come. How in the world have you not seen Labyrinth? Yeah, wow. That's go watch it. Go, I don't know if it's on Netflix. I don't know if it's on Disney Plus. I don't think they got that series or that group of Henson stuff. Definitely interesting. Let's see. Have you seen Fraggle Rock? Used to be on HBO. We could talk about, I don't know. We could talk about Boba Fett. Well, that depends. What parts of Star Wars have you seen? Just depends. Yeah, Disney Plus. I don't know. Like I said, I don't think Disney Plus it would be on there. What's going on?
Sanitizer inventory. So there's a second one. That's empty. Oh no. Half. They said there's a second one.
Cool. Yeah, they got their own.
Okay, so
we got stuff.
half and half. Okay.
You have another one of those somewhere?
No, we just use that.
I mean, do you have another wall mount?
Well, maybe after the shop.
The shop?
Yeah, I think we took the shop. You took the light on. It's right over there to the right.
Ah, yes. Part of the joys of being at work. Just got parts. Hey, Memes, what's going on? Memes, I put the link in Couture if you want to look at that. You're more okay. More up on the post 2000s. Gotcha. Ah, there he is. Woo! Really, Donkey Kong?
I mean, it's the way to go, right?
I don't know. You're hiding. That's what you're doing.
Because I'm on my cell phone, man. I'm cold. I'm under my blanket.
Why?
Because I'm cold.
I don't know how you can be cold. Hey, do me a favor. Oh, just boredom. Got called in at 3. Yeah, I'm still at work. So, hey, just a second. I'll be right back, Sean. Hold this for a second.
Okay. I just held it. I dropped it. This is no fair. As soon as I come into the show,
because you took your time. You took your sweet time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my stuff is like not completely done being set up. Like, I still have to arrange the background and stuff, and I have a couple more pieces coming today. So, yeah. But man, getting back to Labyrinth, I think Prince was like strange enough to where, you know, he would have been an interesting take on the Goblin King.
I don't disagree with you at all. I think it would have been perfect. I think that would have been more in line with the time frame they should have done it in. And I'll tell you what, I would say that part of the reason why he probably never would have done it was because of his Jehovah's Witness, whatever.
He did Purple Rain.
Well, no, that was like right after he literally changed so much after certain things because of his Jehovah's Witness. He was really weird. He used that as an excuse for some things, and then he
was born into like Jehovah's Witness.
Yes, but he didn't take it. Well, Dandelion Fluff, thank you very much for stopping in and saying hello. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not getting into that really. I mean, that would be my only reason why I would think he would back out of it. Maybe he used it when it was to his advantage, and he, whatever. We're not going to get into the whole thing about the fact that he didn't even really fit the Jehovah's Witness thing. So, hey, Chad, what's going on?
What's up, Chad?
What's up? Hey, Sean, how you guys doing?
We're doing good. Okay, so
I'd have just liked to seen like a part of like Labyrinth 2 where Prince as the Goblin King would tell Jennifer Connelly, you must like purify yourself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
Jesus. Okay. Well, let's talk about this real quick. It would have been awesome if they had done a second Labyrinth with Prince. They could have established that the Goblin King isn't necessarily a hold on, we got another guy on here. Everything Star Wars. Rob, how you doing?
How you been, man? How's it going?
I'm doing well. Now we're talking Labyrinth really quick, guys, because and Sean, why did you mute yourself?
I had to sneeze.
Oh, okay. Hold on, we got one more guy in here. Justin, how you doing? Okay, so
we're doing all right. How are you?
I'm doing well. We're talking Labyrinth, guys, really quick. We're talking about the fact that Ords Bored, he put it out there that I guess they've confirmed there's going to be a sequel to Labyrinth. I don't know if that's going to end up being like a series on somebody's streaming service, if they're really going to put the time towards it to do a sequel. But we're talking about Prince could have been the Goblin King in a second Labyrinth. Anybody? Anyone? No? Okay. So
nope.
Here's the thing. I think he would have been perfect for it. I would definitely say they got to find somebody like Prince. They got to put somebody like that into a Labyrinth movie, a second one. I think you have to have Jennifer Connelly. She's got to be in there in some capacity. And you have to have it be like her daughter or something this time. But there's the problem. Is there a problem with the fact that in '86, this movie was about somebody who was like in his 50s, basically professing love for somebody that was between the ages of 14 and 17?
Well, I mean, not really. I mean, if you look at it in the context of the script, I mean, he's the Goblin King. You know, he's not necessarily like a normal guy, so I don't think you could necessarily apply like the structures of Creeper to him, you know, because he's from a different realm.
Okay, I guess I could see that. But like I said, if they established something like the Goblin King was merely a projection of what somebody thought they looked like. In other words, it isn't necessarily any one person or any one age or anything like that.
Oh, so sort of like the Doctor.
Something like that. Something where it's the person who comes to the labyrinth who imagines it.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess that's when you have George Michael come in and sing, father figure or something.
I mean, you see, the thing is, you have to have. If they honestly, they've been kicking around the idea of a Labyrinth sequel, like before David Bowie even passed away. So, but I mean, if you were to do a sequel to the Labyrinth and you were not going to actually do a straight up reboot, you're going to do a sequel. You would really need to find someone with like that has at least some of the nuances that David Bowie had, and that's why I think Prince would have been a good choice, because he was so just out there. He was odd. Like David Bowie was odd in a lot of ways, but maybe even more so.
So Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
Biting heads of bats off in the middle of
the Goblin King of Metal. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, here's the other thing too. I mean, basically the first Labyrinth was what, 1986?
Yeah.
It was a very different time, creatively speaking, when writers could go full on creep factor in children's movies, and kids would be cool with it.
Well,
this is 2020. I honestly don't think if they try to do a sequel or reboot or whatever, it's going to have anywhere near the charm and staying power of the original.
I agree.
Because of the times we're in and how soft children's entertainment can be.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would agree, except for here's the fact. I think that it could possibly, after watching what I have watched of the Dark Crystal, they were still very true to that series, and that series was weird in every way.
Yeah, that series was. At times it was nightmare fuel, and I love the old movie, and I still haven't watched the series, but that was CGI, and that was on Netflix.
No.
No, they used practical effects for Dark Crystal prequel.
That was Jim Henson doing everything again. That was his studio doing everything again.
Well, you can tell I haven't watched it. It was
all practical for the most part.
So if it was Jim Henson's studio, then okay, that switches it around, because of course they're going to respect the man, and Jim Henson still being alive, he's going to do everything he can to keep it legit.
Oh no, Jim Henson's dead.
Oh no, this was, we're talking about the Netflix series. It was Jim Henson's studio, so I guess Brian Henson.
His son.
So I guess the question remains:
would the same studio still be able to stand behind a Labyrinth reboot that was live action?
Right.
Would they be able to give us the same vibe of the original?
Well, the question would have to be who owns the rights.
Exactly.
If it's still Henson Studios,
it's still them.
Okay, then if Henson Studios could do it, it might be like straight to streaming, but it could be as weird as the original movie.
All the better for it to be straight to streaming, because that's when you can get weird and intense. Let's
be honest, though.
That's why the Dark Crystal could not have made it in the movie theater. That they were smart going straight to Netflix.
Yeah, I still have yet to watch that series, but I should.
But let's let's be 100% honest. They are not going to be able to match the same success as they did with Labyrinth. As much as CG and all that stuff did, this movie was successful based on the fact that it was 99% practical effects and puppets. And you can't, I mean, many people have tried doing that today. Many people have tried marrying practical with CGI, and sometimes they do it good, sometimes they don't. But you know for a fact that if they tried doing this today, they're going to try putting in a little bit more CGI effects, and it's not going to do good. You're also going to, I mean, you can't capture the same flamboyance and energy that David Bowie had in that movie.
No.
And he perfectly wielded his energy in that movie. I mean, also, you're not going to be able to throw a baby 20 feet in the air and catch it.
I could. But
let's
no,
not bring that on air, shall we? Or any other place.
But another
Okay.
Another thing you have to take in consideration is not only does the movie have to look right and feel right, but the soundtrack has to. I mean, the soundtrack for Labyrinth was like a big part of the movie for me. You know,
Indeed.
the songs of the movie. You know, I mean, so many of the songs were like big plot points in the movies. Or in the movie, you know, and you would have to have something like that again for it to feel like Labyrinth to me.
Well, it's the thing. It's real simple. Jennifer Connelly has a daughter and a son. Same situation, except this time it's her daughter that has to go after the baby, and that Jennifer Connelly finds out what's going on, and maybe you have two Goblin Kings, and you get somebody that, and I know this sounds horrible. And you're not going to, Jim Henson won't do CGI, I don't think. But you find somebody that can pull off Bowie as good as possible, whatever, and you do a quick scene of that. You got to have some nod to Bowie in this.
I'd be okay with that.
The thing is, you're not going to find anybody like that to do a good Bowie, because here's the reason why. Everybody seen Bohemian Rhapsody?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
No.
There was actually supposed to have scenes with Bowie.
Yeah.
But they could literally find no one. They searched hell, high water, every place, and they could literally find no one to do Bowie.
That's a little different because it's reliant on somebody playing Bowie. Here, you can use makeup a lot more. All you need is somebody who can personify maybe the voice or something.
You could even perfectly render just for maybe 20 seconds or 45 seconds like David Bowie out of CGI, like Darth Vader was in Rogue One.
No. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to do something like that. Bear, how you doing today? We're talking a little bit. We're talking a little bit of Labyrinth here, and then we're going to get into Mandalorian and then some news here. That we
I got some things to say about that.
I just had a question real quick. Has any reboot been successful? Any reboot, no matter what movie you pick, has it been successful?
Probably.
I guess
a couple reboots that I've seen. Yes.
Gone in 60 seconds. Ocean's 11.
Well, I mean, currently, I'm not talking like 10 years. I'm talking like recently.
No recent reboot has been successful.
I'd agree with that.
That's what I'm worried about. That's exactly what I'm worried about. I would be worried that they're going to screw up, or they're going to throw something in there and say, "Oh, we got to fit this agenda," or they got to fit that agenda. I'm worried about that.
We're not talking about a reboot. We're talking about a sequel.
Yeah, there's that.
Even with a sequel, I still don't think I still don't think it's good. Like, why do you wait so long?
Because
I agree.
But
I mean, right now,
haven't they told us that they were doing a sequel before, and this could be with any IP, and ended up being a reboot?
Yeah, but wait,
they kind of deceived us a little bit here and there.
Yeah, but here's the thing: what you guys aren't thinking about. This is one Brian Henson His dad came up with these properties. That's why when he still does this, it's as close. I mean, his dad raised him in that studio. His dad taught him everything he knew. His dad impressed upon him the importance of story, the importance of whimsical play. And I cannot believe for 1 second that Brian would go and throw that all away, especially after what I did see of the Dark Crystal. He kept it so true to it. Now, like I said, this could go straight to streaming, and truthfully nowadays, it'd probably be the best thing because less people are going to touch it, less people are going to be worried about it.
It's funny that you mentioned Brian Henson, though, because for the longest time, like when I saw like the trailer for Happy Time Murders and stuff, I was like, man, this is disrespectful to Jim Henson's legacy. You know, it's adult themed. And then, one day I was bored and I actually watched it. Yeah, it was a little risque, but I mean, for all intents and purposes, I mean, it had like all of the things that you would expect, from a Jim Henson movie. Just was more geared towards like the adult fans. So I think
the people who grew up with Jim Henson.
Yeah, so I think Brian Henson could totally knock it out of the park if given the opportunity.
And I wouldn't doubt for 1 minute that this is something his father had planned on doing and maybe even had a rough draft of it somewhere. I understand the problems that could come about it, but I have more faith in the fact that this is one of those properties that is within the Henson family and the Henson product that they're not going to just throw it away.
Yeah.
So, okay, guys, let's get to this. Boba Fett. I guess there's pretty good indication he's going to be somewhere in some capacity in the next season of Mandalorian.
Yep. And I actually saw this coming.
Me too.
Because
me too.
Let me mention something there's a very old, Disney is dipping into a lot of very old and lost EU stories lately. The High Republic is a very blatant ripoff of Tales of the Jedi, complete with copying comic book art. And now with Boba Fett coming in Mandalorian 2, this definitely has shades of Twin Engines of Destruction.
Yeah.
Which is from 1995, where Boba is hunting down another Mandalorian armor user the fact he's using Mandalorian armor is taking jobs away from Boba. And he's not happy.
Yeah, well,
and so he hunts him down.
Here's the problem. It's not above Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, Disney, whoever. It's not above them to go and pull stuff from the EU that they claim doesn't exist anymore. In fact, I would say Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni probably do not believe that that's the truth. They're more willing to use it than anybody else, probably. Now, the problem I have is why? Why do we bring him in? Because why didn't we just make this the Boba Fett series?
I agree.
Why the hell bring him in now after we've established a whole nother character that's basically Boba Fett, and now we're going to bring him in? Why? Why bother?
Because they want
Am I the only one that...
Look, we're so original. We're so different. Meanwhile, they are flat out ripping off what came before and now leaning on it. And this is the biggest issue I have with Disney. Above Rey, Mary Sue, above, you can't stop me, I'm a Jedi from Jakku. Even above that, no, it's the sheer plagiarism and inability to tell a coherent story and use that plagiarism correctly to still borrow from what worked in the past.
Yeah, but that's just, I don't know. I think that it was a much more compelling story. You could have done a whole season with a more compelling story of Boba Fett having to, I don't know, hell, start it when he climbs out of the Rancor and show how he has to regain his status, because it's obvious he's one of the best bounty hunters in the galaxy in the original trilogy. You get that feeling from it. You had a much better storyline there. I'm not going to say that The Mandalorian was a bad show. I thought it was a good show, but if we're going to bring him in, then we should have just done it last year and made this damn thing about him. Hold on just a second, guys. I got if I can get it to come up, I have a super chat here. Okay, I can't see it because it's my computer.
Yep.
Yeah, and is it up still? Because I can't see it.
Down.
You just shrunk it back, yeah.
Yeah, because I hit it once and then it says I hit it twice. I'm sorry, I'm on like 10 megabits of
there it is. Yeah.
There you go. It's up.
Okay, so Chris, dropping in to say hi before work. Ensign, thank you very much for the $2 super chat. Appreciate it very, very much. And let's get back to this. Okay.
Right. And I just want to drop one more thing.
Yeah.
Before the handover, basically it's been theorized that the handover canceled this. There was a game in production called 1313.
Yes.
That was supposed to be Boba Fett's story of how he rose to prominence.
Yes,
it was.
In the Clone Wars and afterwards. That got canceled from the handover, and Disney could have told that story in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Even now, they could resurrect that game because work was almost finished on it. That game was shelved. For all I know, they still have the raw data. They could finish work on it and still release it. They could have released it as The Mandalorian. They could have done it as a separate series.
Wait, okay, let's go back to when the changeover happened. So we were all told basically in outlined form by Disney that the plan was one Disney movie per year. You were going to get The Force Awakens, then they were going to do another one, which turned out to be Rogue One. Then they did Last Jedi, and then they did Solo, and then they kind of went to the wayward side of things because they realized that they were, one, saturating the market, two, their storylines weren't giving the preferential treatment. They weren't given the type of reception they wanted, all that stuff, whatever you want to say. They're never going to tell you exactly why they pulled it, which is people didn't like what they were putting out. But
let's just say, I mean, for me personally, even let's say this was, during the era of the original trilogy, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I mean, Star Wars is vast. You can go pretty much anywhere with Star Wars, but I don't think at least for me, there's not enough that you could introduce in like a Star Wars movie every year, even under the original trilogy in the 80s, that would have kept me interested, to keep going back like year after year, like every 3 years, was perfect. I think.
Yeah. That was the design. He did that he knew what he was doing. One, it gives you plenty of time to develop the story as you go along. Because let's be honest, we all know how movies are made. You put a rough draft out there of a script or of a story, and as you're getting ready, the pre-production and all that, you have people sitting down reading the script, and then when they read the parts together, then you're like, wait a minute, that sounds stupid. Let's rewrite that. Go back. Boom, we'll all meet back here tomorrow. Come back, new scene. Yeah, that sounds better. Let's do it this way. You kind of need that 3 years for a movie like Star Wars. But even if that was the case, they planned to do Boba Fett, the movie. That was something that was announced that was pretty sure it was going to happen. And even Bear and I have talked about this on the Mandalorian Roundtable, where we're pretty sure that 90% of this first season was just drumming up parts of that script for the Mandalorian. So you've wasted the chance to give Boba Fett his chance, and now you're going to use him as a bit part. Now this is more to the point, like some people claim.
They've done it, and they've done it so many times. They could resurrect 1313. They could resurrect Underworlds, a series Lucas was working on for years about the criminal element in Star Wars. They could have just brought Boba Fett back as the Mandalorian. That's 3 times they have wasted an opportunity to give Boba, arguably the most popular character from the OT. Sorry, Luke and Han, but Boba has one of the most enduring popularities out there that I've seen.
Yeah.
They've wasted the opportunity time and again to give Boba his due. And I can't figure out why.
Well, let's go down this rabbit hole really quick.
You know what would be interesting, Chris, is to get John Celestry's take on this.
You know, yeah, I'd like to talk to him because so John Celestry, if you guys don't know, was the person who first showed us what Boba Fett looked like. He was the animator on the holiday special for Star Wars. Laugh at it what you will. This guy is the guy that animated the first view of Boba Fett we ever had.
Okay.
So,
and didn't you interview him a while back?
Yeah, I did. And actually, I have to do a stream. I'm trying to work out a stream with him because I got a hand-drawn pencil sketch of Boba Fett from him, signed by him.
Me too. Cool.
Yeah. So, what my thought process... go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rob.
I was going to say, Chris, to me, what I've noticed is a trend here is that they try to eliminate the original and replace it with theirs and have people accept it. They didn't care about lore. They tried to get rid of the EU, right? That became Legends. They said, the big saying, kill the past, let it die, the rebels, everything, So that was that message told me right there in The Last Jedi exactly what Kylo Ren said. That's what Disney wanted to do. Their plan is to say, hey, look, we got something original. It's called The Mandalorian. But like you guys said, you had the Boba Fett on tap. You had the Boba Fett movie. You're not going to do the movie? Fine. Why didn't you make it a show like him coming out of the Rancor? I agree. That would have been fantastic. And
they should have led with that.
Yeah, they should have. And I saw a fan film, like a clip of him coming out, and you see the slave one. I was like, wow, this is really great how they did it. And I said, had Disney done that route, I think everybody would have been drawn in. But they want to try and kill everything. And now that they see that it's not working, you know what they're doing? Oh, we got to make the fans happy. So let's throw in this. Let's throw in that. Let's throw in this person. And that's what they're doing this season. You're going to see a bit more. Like we saw like the IG-88 robot, right? Everybody says, oh, it's IG-88. No, it's IG-11. You know what I'm saying? It was great to see it in action, but why couldn't that be IG-88? Well, I don't grasp it.
I don't disagree with the thought process that, yes, Disney sent a direct message, let the past die, all that. I don't disagree with that. But where I say that has a bit of an issue is it's Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. These guys are original Lucasfilm guys. They still talk with Lucas. I think this is their way of playing a game with Disney to keep in the loop of Star Wars, but still be able to try to keep some stuff alive. So my thought process here is, and again, I come up with wild theories. I'll admit to it, but they bring Boba Fett in here, and we now know that because Obi-Wan was pulled, there's more talk about actually resurrecting it as a movie again. What if they bring Boba Fett back in here and the whole purpose is to reintroduce the character so we can get a Boba Fett movie, and they're just going to figure out how to write that again?
I don't know. I mean, I all I do know is that, with the current climate and Disney, being in debt so deep, they need a win. Like when they need like a couple of really, really big wins when it comes to Star Wars.
But will Disney be smart enough to give Boba his due? That's the thing, because every shout out to the past characters that they've made have been to minimize them in every way.
Yep.
Here's another concern I have. It's been 18 years since Attack of the Clones. Tamura Morrison was in great shape then, but will he be able to physically act the part now? I really can't see it happening.
Well, he was Aquaman's dad in Aquaman.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but how much of a physical presence did he have to deliver? Like how many stunts did he have to do?
Again,
if we're talking like, this is set like, in the timeline of the original trilogy, you probably couldn't use him anyway.
Yeah,
because he's too old.
Right, but that's the hot rumor that this is Tamura Morrison taking on the character. And if that's the case, I have to say, I don't see that working out because Boba is supposed to be just super elite and physical.
Well, but we
Like,
don't
he's not-
know. We don't know how they're going to portray him.
Yeah.
We don't. Again, okay. Disney's in debt. You know how many times Disney's been close to bankruptcy?
Many.
Enough times.
This is nothing to them. They don't care. This is a news story people are putting out there because it's news.
The reason this is going out there is because there's a bunch of uncertainty of how the entertainment industry is going to find its way back after all of this stuff, if it ever goes away, and how entertainment is going to forge a new path if theaters are not going to be utilized as much.
Well, yeah, I mean, okay, so the fact of the matter here is that Disney's going to throw all these Marvel streams out, which they've already now announced like 3 or 4 more. We're going to get the Secret Invasion. They're going to have Ironheart now. They're going to have a bunch of stuff, and they're all basically talking about in the next 2 years. Here's what I think they're doing. I think with Star Wars, they're gonna play this this streaming service thing until Kathleen Kennedy's out. I think they're gonna. I think in general they're just trying to buy time until they have maybe a new, fresh perspective and they can relook at the series. And until then, they want to get all these people up. Okay, so Thomas, how you doing?
I'm well, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yep, we can hear you, Thomas.
Awesome.
I've got several other people. Oh wait. Okay, hold on. I have to drop Robb out and bring him back in because he's got I guess he switched something. Oh, yeah, here we go.
And now Chris is gone.
Ba-dum-ba-boom.
Wah, wah, wah.
So how you been, Sean?
You're back. Awesome.
Now I'm back. Gee whiz.
Hey, Chris, remember the episode with the spur-like jingles on the bounty hunter that was walking up?
I know. I still
remember they dangled that. Well, I remember the video that I made, the comparison.
Yeah, I know, and I don't disagree that it could have been. It's just, again, I guess it could be. I mean,
hope they definitely dangled it in front of us. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I think what they did that for was so people could bite on it. Yeah. And then that was going to tell them what they were going to do. And I think we even talked about that. I said, maybe this is just to see if people say it's Boba, they're going to be like, okay, we have to bring him back.
My thoughts on the whole Boba Fett thing, it would be, this is something that they really want to be careful with because it's a widely known fact that during the Clone Wars show, when they made Boba Fett and Jango Fett, and by extension Boba Fett, no longer Mandalorian, that pissed off sorry for swearing, but that pissed off a lot of EU fans. A lot of people follow the Karen Travis Mandalorian arcs.
They did, yeah.
They say what?
No, they did. I'm agreeing with you. Yep, that's absolutely right. I see where you're going.
I mean, so in order or if they bring in Boba Fett, they're going to have to, because they're going by the Lucas doctrine that he's no longer a Mandalorian, they're going to see Boba Fett as an abomination because he's wearing Mandalorian-style armor.
But here's the problem. Here's a problem that on a plot point that never got a chance to be addressed. The person who said that Jango was never a Mandalorian was one of the Democrats of the new government who cast out the original Mandalorians, aka Death Watch, exiled them, and made them outcasts. And Death Watch, despite being seen as terrorists, wanted to reclaim their warrior culture and control of Mandalorian society. So it was a bit of a gray area in the sense that, yes, okay, these are Democrats, but they're also usurping another person's culture. So
the problem is,
what I want to
Lucas.
get at is, was this guy telling the truth? Because this is still a guy that was behind that exile and banishing of traditional Mandalorians. So can we trust what he said?
Lucas actually confirmed that, or the reason why he had that scene where Prime Minister Olmec is basically saying Jango Fett was just nothing more than a common bounty hunter, where he got that armor is beyond me. Basically what they're saying is that Jango Fett got the armor by killing a Mandalorian. So they retconned the EU and made him no longer Mandalore, the leader of the Mandalorians. Mm-hmm. I mean, like I said, Republic Commando and the EU are my canon. That is the one thing I will go up against George Lucas with, because George Lucas is the one that decanonized the Fett Mandalorian heritage. And and I have said it often, I will commit heresy. I will tell Lucas that is your biggest mistake, aside from selling Star Wars.
Well, there was still a story there left to be told, and it never did get told, whether or not that's the entire truth. Jango could have been adopted by Death Watch, who were still very traditional Mandalorians as per the EU's definition. So he could have been Mando by adoption, which is
no. Death Watch, even by the Clone Wars standard, would have been shunned by the Mandalorians as they were in the EU. They are considered Darmanda, meaning no longer Mandalorian. Even the Death Watch in the show, they would be considered Darmanda because they were killing kids. They were killing, or they were pillaging in ways that the Mandalorian.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, he's faded out too. Orange, you're fading out on us.
You're doing the robot.
Yeah. All right. Here's the thing. I'm gonna let my my crazy come out right now. Well, hold on. Hey, Orange Hat, are you there? You're really cracking up. Yeah, you're really cracking up. You might want to jump out and try to jump back in.
Yeah, I can't even hear him.
Yeah, I hear him just real quick. So okay, all right. Thomas, you still staying there with us?
Yeah, I'm here. Can I get my take?
Yeah, no. And I was just going to ask you. Go ahead and let's hear what you guys say.
Okay, so I didn't really look into much of the art, much of what's going on, but apparently, from what I understood, Boba Fett is going to be in the Mandalorian. So, and I'm not into I've never really explored the EU apart from reading the first 2 or 3 pages of Heir to the Empire, because I just haven't had enough time to do it. But it does seem interesting, very interesting. My take on it is, and I said this last night on the Weekly Rumble when we were given the Clone Wars question, or the Disney question, Chris, remember?
Mm-hmm.
And so what I said is, I have faith in Filoni and Favreau that they will be able to do Boba Fett correctly, or not correctly, but they won't disgrace him. Filoni and Favreau are no Star Wars. The Mandalorian was a pure example of that. And I have faith that Filoni and Favreau can do justice to Boba. Now, if Kathleen Kennedy was directly attached, because it seems like she's she's not really attached to the Mandalorian, then I would say fuck it. But I think Filoni and Favreau know their Star Wars, and I have confidence that they'll be able to do some justice to Boba Fett. But that's just my 2 cents.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, we could hear you.
Yeah.
We could hear you.
All right, great. All right.
Hey, Steph, how you doing?
I got some other news about
So
that,
I'm gonna let my
about
crazy
the
out really
TT
quick.
thing. I was told by, you guys know Larry Rhodes Rants? He got it on, I'm doing dishes while I'm talking, got it on pretty good, a good source, that she doesn't have any control over the Taika Waititi thing either. And
No, she doesn't.
Because Waititi is connected to the MCU, that this looks like it's another Favreau thing in the end.
Yeah, well,
All right?
okay, so
there you go. And this is why I think they're having a civil war. She's losing her shit. Pardon my French.
yeah, no, okay, so
You know, if you look at
my
everything
crazy
she's been able to do lately, it's Project Luminous and that Headland show, which I don't think will ever be out of development hell. My personal,
which one?
Feeling. So, anyway, this is kind of exciting.
Hey, Steph, which show?
You know. So.
Which show, Steph?
Anyway, I just kind of
Okay.
want to stop in and say hi because I've never been on one of these. So.
Okay.
Anyway.
Can you hear us?
You guys sure you can hear me? Cause
I can hear you. But can you hear us?
I can't. Let me leave and come back. Okay.
Yeah.
Just,
Okay.
Just a second.
All right. Hold on here. Let's see here. All right. Orange Hat, I'll get you back on here in just a minute, okay? Because I'm gonna let Steph come in and say what she has to say. But hold on just a second here. I got like 7 people here.
All right.
So
This
okay.
isn't working.
Let's get her on here and make sure she can hear us. Steph, can you hear us now?
All right. This isn't working. It's my phone. I'll talk to you guys later.
Okay. No way.
On, she's out. Welcome back.
Apparently
Okay, now
she couldn't hear us at all.
yeah, okay. So let me let my crazy out first. My thought process here. Okay, so I have 2 ways of putting this. One, look, I have a video out there about what I think might actually be happening with the fact that Bob Iger did step down and go to just being the grand poobah of the board and all that. And it's a really convoluted scheme that I came up with that truthfully it was in order to try to groom Kathleen Kennedy to actually take over for Disney, which I would not put past anybody there. Now, I don't want that. What I think should happen is I think Filoni and Favreau might get a hold of Lucasfilm when Kennedy's gone. And I think that anything they do Star Wars related is going to be to buy time until the end of next year when she's gone. They'll put them in charge, or one or the other in charge, and the other one will be the main showrunner for everything. And I honestly believe that they might actually bring back the EU and say, you know what? There's too many stories there we haven't told. And if we don't have those, then we have nothing. Because truthfully, think about it. Disney Star Wars is nothing because they've taken all of these interesting characters they can build into a series or put into shows, and they've thrown them by the wayside. Mm-hmm. They need the EU. I mean, so much so that Kathleen Kennedy herself said, we don't have any source material, at which 90% of us laughed and said, that is not our fault. That is your fault.
But that's not true either. I mean, because if you see
no,
the interview, if you see the interview when George is sitting there right in front of her face, he said, look, I left you a treasure trove of stuff.
Exactly.
Comic book books. Then she comes and she does an interview with, I think it was Steel Wars, and she sits there, she's lying, straight out lying. I won't curse because it's your channel, but she's straight out lying, saying stuff like, oh, he left us a blueprint. I was like, F you. Are you kidding me? How could you lie? And it's just consistent lying. Oh, Palpatine was in our story from the beginning. No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. Snoke was probably your big bad villain, but Johnson, you let him kill it. and I don't understand why that even was. So to
Whoa.
you know, it's just a bunch of lies.
That.
Go ahead.
I can answer that for you. Why Ryan was allowed to do that? Because I read an interview, and I've had a hard time finding it. I need to find it, where J.J. Abrams basically said, I told Ryan to make this your movie. Well, when you give somebody the opportunity to do what the hell they want with a movie without saying, here's a little bit of a guidelines, we can't do this, we can't do that. Other than that, go ahead and do what you want. I mean, I blame the whole group of these last movies on people who didn't really sit down and think about it. Whether or not you look at it, the facts are that George Lucas had an outline for every one of those movies in 75.
Mm-hmm.
He just thought it was one movie. And then when he was put to it, he realized I got too much here. And he moved the ending to the end of the first act. And then he had leftovers for a little. He had a little more than crumbs. He probably had some pieces of crust and maybe some bologna he didn't eat. And that was what was left over for the last two movies. And he's like, okay, well, I can put this together and I can make this something. I have enough here. I have my backstory. He had the basic outline of what we got for the prequels even before he even got approved to make this first movie. They didn't do that. They got Star Wars and they were like, oh my God, we got Star Wars. Okay, what do we do?
Isn't there in existence episode 1 through 9 comics?
I believe so.
A friend of mine had a copy, but they were like really hard to get a hold of. There weren't a lot of them around.
There's comics that adapt the original script for Star Wars Episode 1.
Yeah, this was before any of the prequels existed. This is like in the 80s. Me and my friends used to talk about it, hanging around the gazebo, you know, partying. And Star Wars was our main subject that we talked about, especially the 9 episodes of the comic. My friend had them, but he had somehow lost them along the way.
Okay, let me make this point to you, and this is the easiest way I can explain, besides what I just told you, the difference between George Lucas Star Wars and Disney Star Wars. I have the 3 original trilogy books. They came out 4 to 5 months before the movies did. In the new ones that they wrote, they came out 3 to 4, maybe 5 months after the movies, because Disney is looking at it this way. We're going to write this movie, we're going to put this movie out, and then when it is incomplete, when it does not fill everything, when we have questions, we can write comic books to fill in the gaps. We can write books to fill in the gaps. We can put it in our little shows to fill in the gaps, but you're going to have to pay for it all to get that information.
Yeah.
That's where Disney takes this. Disney looks at this monetarily, and they always look at it monetarily. What can we get out of this? Instead of somebody like Lucas, who knew after the first one, hey, I got a gold mine on my hand, but it's going to be gone if I don't treat it right. He went and he looked for good directors. He looked for if he was going to add actors or actresses to it. He looked for people that still fit the motif, the feel, everything. He didn't look for that number one actor out there. That's the difference, is that Disney looks at this just for the money. And the quicker we can get this fixed and get it off to somebody who really cares, yeah.
The way that I see this whole thing, they got to do a major haul at Lucasfilm if they're even going to attempt to fix Star Wars. And I mean that they need to basically say, look, we can use all this new stuff as an alternate universe, because that's basically what they're doing with the EU. It's an alternate universe, but they're cherry picking that universe apart, even though they said they killed it. Now, as pertaining to Taika Waititi and him getting a Star Wars movie, I did a whole live stream of why that is a bad idea. First off, this guy threatened the Marvel fandom, saying, "I will ruin your mythos in a minute, baby." And he also basically has a God complex ego, saying, "You don't know what you want until we give it to you." I don't want anybody like that touching Star Wars.
No. We've already
I can't deny that.
Roundhead.
Yeah, exactly. I can't deny that that Taika Waititi has talent. He does. He did very well, or he did very good movies. But when he says stuff like that to big established fandoms, because they have a difference of opinion, no. I want him nowhere near something as sacred as Star Wars. And that's the thing with...
I would debate his talent level, because I did not care for Ragnarok.
I didn't either, but it was still... and yes, it has some flaws, but that's kind of Waititi's style. He puts seriousness, or he takes serious moments, funny moments, and then he kind of tries to blend them. The problem is he doesn't know how to blend them right. And if you're doing something like Star Wars, you can't have mistakes like that. And you need to know exactly what you're doing. Because if you look at Rian Johnson's attempt at Star Wars, I'm not even going to call it Star Wars, I'm going to call it an attempt. Look at certain scenes. Basically, yes. But look at certain scenes where Laura Dern used shot her stun at the guy after she kicked the steam up. You see her mouth go shoom. It's like, you can't have that kind of stupid mistake in a Star Wars movie. You've just demeaned the entire franchise with one mistake like that. You're allowing that kind of mistake. Deadpool. Exactly. And the thing is, they're saying, well, there was no perfect take. It's like, then you keep shooting until you get it.
That's right.
This is Star Wars. You can't afford stupidity like that. But the problem is, after he did all these mistakes, like the throne room scene, don't get me started on that. Shadowversity can go, or did it way better than anybody else could. After some people gave him legitimate criticism, he's like, well, you can criticize my dick and all that stuff. And I'm like, dude, did you just seriously tell everybody on Twitter to suck you off? That is sick, first off. And secondly, you're not getting your trilogy, because if I was the owner of Lucasfilm, you'd be fired. I mean, now, Lucasfilm and this whole rumored Civil War thing, I'll disagree with Gilkman. I do not want Filoni in charge of Star Wars.
Why?
Favreau, yes. Filoni, no. Filoni, it's already come out, and this is established stuff on paper. Filoni's statements where he wanted the matriarch to take over Star Wars. I'm sorry, but Star Wars should not be about specific gender moments and specific gender roles. You can have both males and females be badasses.
My issues with Filoni go deeper than that, and much more simpler.
And same here.
On Clone Wars, Filoni was pretty much the secretary to George Lucas. George Lucas put out the ideas. Filoni just wrote them down. In fact, there were interviews there was one of the best moments of season 2, the whole Return to Geonosis arc. Filoni screwed the pooch initially. There was a broadcast delay on these episodes coming out, and the reason for the broadcast delay is that when George Lucas saw the initial animation, he deleted it right there. And basically just looked at Filoni and said, you have got some serious work to do to improve on this. Came in the next Monday and said, gave him some World War I movies, some World War II movies, and said, this is what I want, the style that I want. And that's why there was a broadcast delay on those episodes. And those episodes turned out amazing. So Filoni was just a secretary. And if you look at Ahsoka in Clone Wars, Ahsoka would regularly be beaten injured, hurt, humiliated. She would show that yes, a talented Padawan, but still a Padawan. Look at Ashoka in Rebels. Vader didn't so much as scratch her. No. Just know. Lucas was about Ashoka's journey to Filoni. She is his pet. And no, I don't want someone that will treat a character like that. So no.
Well, let's just get crazy then. Why don't they just hire George Lucas to be in charge of Lucasfilm?
Or Katie.
They should. Oh, they should.
Why not?
Yeah, but
if
they did that, they would have to admit that they made huge, phenomenal mistakes.
I mean, just the honest truth about this.
I don't think he wants the responsibility, Chris.
Well, no, there you go. The reason, and I've said this 1,000 times, the way that this went down when he sold it was he started writing the trilogy, the final trilogy. He had, I mean, because I've seen it, it's all online. You can see tons of artist renderings and generic ideas. You know, they kind of took some of what he was going to do, but they just did their own thing with it. But he had the trilogy started. He was coming up with the idea. He was coming up with the outline like he does. And I think somewhere along the way, Disney, like they do so often, sees something starting and they're like, well, let's get our fingers in this and let's make a little bit of money off of it. And maybe Bob Iger and George Lucas were out at dinner or something or met someplace, and George is sitting there, and at some point they're talking about Star Wars, and then George just kind of lets it out and says, you know, I'm just doing this so I can be done with Star Wars. I've got other projects in the fire. I'm not really that committed into this anymore. I just had to finish it. I started this. I got to finish this. And Iger heard a chance. And he said, well, I mean, okay. I mean, what if you were to put a number on it, what would you sell it for? And George Lucas probably threw out some stupid number like $4 billion. Like, oh, I don't know, Bob, $4 billion. I'd probably give it to whoever. And Iger was like, sold. And George Lucas is sitting there going like, $4 billion? Fine. You're going to give it to me? And then he turns around. This is how you know he was done. He not only made $4 billion off of the franchise, he turned around and he donated that $4 billion to charity. What other way does that tell you I'm done with Star Wars?
Let's keep in mind, Lucas was in his 70s when he sold it out.
Yeah, but I'm just saying,
running that kind of corporation, to be involved in the games and the books and the comics, to be guiding the story group and overseeing decisions as Lucas was. There's still proof saying that he was involved in every facet. That would have been exhausting.
Yep.
And his daughter saw the way the media treated him, which was like absolute crap because he didn't care about them. And he said, nope, I don't want the company either. I don't want that kind of stress.
Yeah.
Even though she was involved in Clone Wars as well, she wrote a great deal of episodes in Clone Wars, including Mortis.
I just think that if you were to hire, I mean, and again, hire, I don't know, whoever takes over for Lucasfilm has to figure out a way to reintegrate George Lucas, whether or not it's like, hey, George, we're having a meeting about our next movie. We just kind of want to run some things by you. Just, you know what, come by, we'll get you dinner. We'll throw, $100,000 your way just for your time. Come in and listen to us. You don't even have to do anything. You just listen, and then when we're done, look at us and go like,
I think, Chris, and maybe you guys agree with me. By the way, hi to everybody. I'm sorry I didn't say hi to you guys earlier. I had some internet problems, so.
Hey.
And I'm testing everything. This is all new to me. This is all being tested out. So,
okay.
I think what happened was when, I'm not saying me personally, but whoever, the fans in general, gave him hell about Jar Jar, gave him hell about the prequels, the dialogue, that stressed him because in an interview, he's like, listen, I just want to tell my Star Wars. This is my story, and I want to tell it the way I want to tell it. If I can't do that, if I can't tell my story with a lot of hate, with a lot of people not liking it, then it's not fun to me anymore. And if it's not fun to me anymore, then I want to do things that are fun to me. And I have other projects that I'd rather focus on. And I think that when he said that to me, that was the bell that we screwed this up. And I'm not saying anybody in this room or chat or whatever, but I'm saying overall in general, we can blame ourselves for the state that it's in right now, partially, not fully. But the reason that he sold it was that reason. He's like you said, Chad, he's 70 years old. You know, he's in his 70s, 75, whatever he doesn't want to deal with people. This is horrible. This character's, look at this one. He doesn't need that in his life. He's like, listen, I'm done right now. I can retire. I have enough money. You know, forget about it. My kids, they'll be well off. You know, I don't need this. But people still love him, no matter what. Everybody's going to love him. I mean, that's not going to change.
I disagree with that. I disagree with that idea. Yes, there were a lot of fans that were hostile, but Lucas took it in stride. He worked with Robot Chicken, that poked fun at him a lot. He would be there in meetings when they came up with scripts. He loved Kevin Rubio's stories and brought him in to write us an episode of Clone Wars. And Rubio poked so much fun at him in so many of his short stories, like The Emperor's Court, where Han is on trial for the murder of Greedo and doctors up the evidence to make it look like Greedo shot first. Like, Rubio was so savage with Lucas, and Lucas loved it. Lucas took it and laughed and said, Rubio, I'm giving you a Clone Wars episode. Basically, BalManBad Jedi, where Jar Jar is mistaken to be a Jedi Knight. And so he took a lot of those shots, and he said, okay, what else you got? Again, he worked with Robot Chicken, who poked a lot of fun at him. So, yeah, I think a lot of the hostility, that would have been a factor, but not as much as some people make it out to be. Because from everything we always got to see, he took a lot of it in stride.
Well, what would you say is the deciding factor then? What would be the thing that made him do this if that wasn't it?
If I had to guess, again, he's in his 70s, and he's watching over the games, he's watching over the comics, the novels, the TV series. Bro, even one of those things would break a young man for a man in his 70s. That's a mountain of work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking he just, said, you know what, I've hit my limit. I feel like just walking away now and handing it over to someone else.
Yeah. Another thing that people forget is the treatments that Lucas gave to Iger and them was not a part of the Disney deal. He sold the treatments for $500 million each, so that's $1.5 billion. And it's in Iger's book. He basically discarded those treatments. So if they were to bring in Lucas, or if they were to ask Lucas to come in, Lucas would, in my honest opinion, he would tell them to go fly a kite. It's like, you totally disrespected what I did.
Yeah, I can see that.
But
I can see that.
But he's as much to blame for that as anybody.
He is.
Mm-hmm.
He is, and I will fully admit that. He has even admitted that. He totally and he has said he totally regrets selling to Disney. I mean, it was in that interview. I sold my kids. I sold my babies. And he's absolutely right. Now, I would forgive George Lucas that. The only thing, like I said, that I disagree with George Lucas on is his interpretation of the Mandalorians. That is the only thing I will disagree with him on. Because he was also in the Ahsoka Dies camp, as is widely known through David Filoni's mouth. But have any of you seen that thing about, or the OG Star Wars did, where Ahsoka is basically going to be a Force goddess?
No, I've heard the rumors, and it sounds like something Filoni would do. Because, again, Filoni considers her his pet.
Yeah. And the thing is, he did make her basically damn near perfect in season 7, where she's kicking butt. Yes, she got caught and whatnot, but those are circumstances that she she was holding herself back in.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as much as I liked the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars, I mean, I can separate my fandom in certain ways. So I can enjoy the Clone Wars, even though I do not like them as subjectively as most others do. But I'm telling you right now, there's only 1 out of those 4 episodes that I really didn't like. Actually, 2 of the episodes that I really didn't like out of the last 4 episodes. And that was the ones that were directly in correlation to episode 3.
Yeah.
Because episode 3, the movie, took or was a span of 4 to 5 days, maybe a couple of weeks. Because when Padme announced she was pregnant to Anakin in episode 3, she was, I believe, 8 months pregnant exactly.
Mm-hmm.
She was ready to give birth at the end of that movie. So the way that they did it in Clone Wars is Siege of Mandalore, 2 days long. You're telling me, or what the heck's going on? There was so many problems with them, and that is the main problem that people make, or that a lot of mistakes are made, is when you are marrying old established content with your new content 10, 20 years later, almost 15 years later, if you really want to get specific. I think, yes, almost 15. Yes, 15 years later, because wasn't episode 3 2005? I believe so.
2005. Yeah.
2005. So it's 15 years later. You're messing with content, and it's like, are you serious that you want to go down this thing? Because first off, Filoni did a really big screw up with the Order 66 being given in that episode. Look at Sidious, and then look at every previous model of Sidious from the Clone Wars. Does he look any different? Quick answer, no, he does not. Also, Rex, what does he say to Sidious after the order is given? Yes, Lord Sidious. So it made a lot of people scratch their heads. It's like, did he know that Darth Sidious, or who Darth Sidious is? Because if that is the case, he would have killed Sidious. Because look how Fives took the revelation of who Palpatine really was. He was going to kill him. He was going to kill Palpatine. So I'm sorry if Rex knew who he was, he would have killed him. He wouldn't have followed that order. That's why the inhibitor chip thing also doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he says, yes, Lord, this is like, no, it should have been, it will be done, my lord, like they did in the movie. Every clone commander, and even back when the EU was considered canon, Order 66, the novel, there were clones that heard that order and they're like, it will be done, my lord, but they completely ignored it after. They did their programmed response, it will be done, my lord. But if you look at the Null Troop, or the Null Arcs, or Cal Scarata's boys from Republic Commando, Ordo puts on his, or sees a message thing in his helmet, puts it on, execute Order 66. It will be done, my lord. And he goes straight to his father and says, the order's been given, we got to get Etain out of here. He completely ignored, and he had no impulse to kill any Jedi. And that's why it doesn't make sense, because if you look at this, even, yes, they decanonized those books and whatnot, but even if you look at how it was done in Clone Wars, it doesn't make sense. If that implant makes it so you have no choice but to obey, Rex would not have been able to fight something that was so powerful. not when it's cozied up right next to his damn brain. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. That implant was basically put in while he was not an embryo, but basically growing.
Mm-hmm.
So it just doesn't make sense. But I can still enjoy and separate Clone Wars from the movies because I consider it myself personally, it's a separate universe from the movies. Because if you look at the movies, there is absolutely no mention of Ahsoka or anything like that. And you'd think that during that brief interlude after they rescued the Chancellor and they're flying him back to the Senate, when Obi-Wan and Anakin are talking about Cato Nemoidia and whatnot, it's like, so do you think that, or they would have talked about Ahsoka, do you think she won Mandalore? Do you think she got Maul? Or anything like that? They would have talked about that. And that's the problem when you are talking about older established lore and inserting new lore from something that's so old. That's the trick. You can't do it because you're going to screw with stuff that is too established. So how are you going to fix it? Well, the only easy answer is, which will probably cost a few $1 million, have Ewan McGregor, Hayden Christensen film a few scenes in their old get-ups and talk about, and then insert them in episode or in a new cut of episode 3. That's the only way you're going to do it. So
here's the thing: Favreau and Filoni have both done their own mess ups. I've heard all sorts of things. Stuff. I'm just going to say right now, though, I think it's some of the better Star Wars stuff we've got. Now, when I say that, I understand that's nowhere near what it used to be. Of everything I've seen, the best Star Wars we've gotten out of Disney was Rogue One.
Yes.
And so
I tell everybody.
I just want to say, like, this was not the full season 7.
No.
There's still
episodes you're right.
that, like the Son of Dathomir, where Maul was rescued, and there was the Utapu arc, which we see in animatic format. There was supposed to be the death of Ventress, which I'm not even going to get into. That was covered in Dark Disciple, which were taken from scripts by, guess who? Katie Lucas, George's daughter. So there was still how Boba gets back the slave one. That still wasn't covered, even though we know it's now in the hands of a friend of his family. So there was so much that was left. This was not the full season 7.
There was also Disney's the dented helmet arc. Yeah, there was also the dented helmet arc where it explains
Disney's
how
cut, where basically they edited the scripts, and it's their telling of it rather than George's version. So
they really should have put in that episode where it explains how Boba Fett gets the dented helmet, because having Cad Bane versus Boba Fett, you need something like that. You really do.
You do. And Boba is already a formidable fighter at this point.
Yeah, he was, or at 16, he was almost as good as his father. Now, I just heard that from earlier in the discussion, Tamara Morrison has been cast. The thing is, at this point in time, how old is Tamara Morrison in real life?
Exactly. That's the point I was making.
Hold on.
I don't think he'll be able to deliver the physical performance he did in Attack of the Clones.
Well, the thing is, he could. He actually could, because first off, he doesn't necessarily have to. You can get an actor to do it, and you can do the audio dialogue replacement after, just like they did with Empire Strikes Back.
True.
Now, believe me, having Boba Fett in Mandalorian, it would be interesting to see. Honestly, it would, because I would wonder what actual Mandalorians, since the Fetts are no longer Mandalorian, according to Disney's evil interpretations, I would love to see how they would react to somebody using their armor that's not Mandalorian. But the thing is, these Mandalorians are with their creed is just, it's like, it makes no sense. we'd never take off our helmets. All right, tell that to all those others who just took off their helmets during Rebels, Clone Wars, and I don't know. You had like 100 Mandalorians taking off their damn helmets, but yet I'm guessing it's your clan, your specific clan, that is not allowed to do it.
Yeah.
So that makes no sense. And plus, this is the way. It's like, I mean, I understand the Mandalorian is a creed, or Mandalorians are a creed, and not specifically a people. And that is basically the same thing in the EU. They got that part right. Because the Mandalorians were wiped out long before the old or prequel stuff happened. They were no longer an actual race. They were a community. They were a adoptive and adaptive community. And that explains Jango Fett's whole thing with him. I mean, Jango Fett was adopted into the community, yet then he rose to the level of being the leader of the Mandalorians. And God, I miss the Karen Traviss novels so bad. I wish they would incorporate them more into Disney's lore, but unfortunately, George Lucas screwed the pooch on that.
Man, I love those stories.
I mean,
Me too.
exactly. Making the
I thought the last
Mandalorians a
two
bunch
kind of jumped the shark,
I mean,
but the first
I
three
wish they.
were fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I really do wish they had kept with that stuff, because this whole pacifist thing with the Mandalorians, it's like Mandalorian and pacifist should never even be in the same sentence. I'm sorry.
But
Because
that's
if
one
you-
thing I liked what George Lucas did, because again, it was two extremes clashing. Death Watch represented the ultimate extreme of the warrior culture, the pacifists, the new government. And
Yeah, but
that's
it's
one thing that I
still-
liked about that idea.
The problem is, I'm one of those extreme Karen Traviss fans. I mean, not too extreme,
Fair
but
enough.
it's like, dude, those are the ones that I accept. And if anybody says that the Death Watch became the warrior culture of Mandalore, it basically makes my heart wrench in a little bit, because it's like they killed all those. I mean, yes. Here's something that I will say though. When Jango Fett brought in the Kui Valdar, which is those who do not exist, to raise the clone commandos, he actually brought in 2 people from Death Watch. But he did it basically to see, or basically as an experiment, and he would watch them closely. So yes, there are clone commando squads that were actually raised by people who were very brutal and were willing to kill kids and stuff. So I can understand why George wanted to do something that was a little more kid friendly and whatnot, but still, yet having the way that they had it in Republic Commando and stuff with Karen Traviss, that was so much more in depth. She created a freaking language for this culture, and they tried to implement some of it into the show itself. I mean, I actually recognized a little bit of the dialect, but they say it comes from Concordia, and I'm like, no, that's actual Mandoa. And they actually used it very well in the Old Republic game that's online. I mean, they were sticking with the EU Karen Traviss model in those ones, and I'm like, yes. So it was wonderful in the Old Republic, but to see this one in the Clone Wars, it's cringe. It sadly is cringe.
Yeah,
Well, let me
there's
ask you this.
I just want to add something very small. I just want to add one very small piece. One thing I love that they could have done in Mandalorian is in Twin Engines of Destruction. Boba has a partnership with Dengar, because Dengar is the one that pulled him to civilization when Boba Fett got out of the Sarlacc. And he's getting into his armor and having our angel conversation. And he finally ends it with, man, if this is your personality, no wonder you don't show your face. And Boba turns to him after his helmet is on and says, this is my face.
Yep.
That is a perfect representation of who Boba Fett is. That it is the Mandalorian armor, its killing effectiveness, and the reputation that it brings to him. That's his entire personality.
And that was before Travis got a hold.
and will get the bounty no matter what.
Yep, that was
right.
before.
And they could have done that so well instead of the, have you ever shown your face to anyone? No, they could have just done something like that in Mandalorian. It would have been so much more simpler and so much more of a statement of this character and who he is.
But that's
no,
why
they had to come up with something stupid like.
That's why I say that they took the Boba Fett movie and pieced it out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely did. There's no way around that. And again, that wraps us around to my initial question. What is the point of having Boba Fett in this?
There really isn't. They're doing it on they're pulling nostalgia. Just like the ending of that last episode of The Mandalorian with the Darksaber, it got everybody asking the right questions. Okay, why does he have the Darksaber? And how did he get it? Because it's already established after Rebels, which takes place, or which actually concludes after Return of the Jedi. Sabine Wren still has it.
Yeah.
So, did this guy kill Sabine? Why does he have it?
The thing is, we were talking about this.
And the Darksaber pretty much marks you as the Mandalorian King Arthur.
Sort of, yeah.
You were saying before about all the plot holes, Orange Hat, and how many are there? We see Rex 1 minute getting his chip taken out, but then in Rebels, he said he took it out. So, wait a minute.
Exactly. That's the problem. They had too many inconsistencies.
Trilogy. How many sequel trilogy plot holes are there? How much it changed lore? You got all that. You had Luke.
Those movies are walking plot holes.
You had Luke and Leia, right? You had a lot of plot holes.
But here's the thing. You can't blame that on Disney. You can't blame that on Favreau or Filoni because George Lucas did it himself.
Yeah, he did.
In the first trilogy, what were we told by Obi-Wan in the first movie?
The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field surrounding all living things.
Okay, but also he says, I thought I could train I thought I could train Darth Vader because he doesn't admit that it's dad yet. He says I thought I could train him as well as Yoda could. They make it
that
sound
actually
like
took
Yoda
place in Return of the Jedi.
His master.
Yes.
They point blank say it, and then he goes and he changes all of that.
Yes, there is, but the thing is, they explain it in novels. They explain that in novels, Chris.
Not necessarily, because in the first movie, in Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan is insisting that he trains Anakin as Qui-Gon requested.
Yeah.
And he's even standing up to Yoda and saying, I will do this even without your permission. So
But
that could very well have been what he was referring to.
Yeah, I don't
the arrogance of that moment.
But the thing is he added so much to it. And I still say this to this day, and I will never back off at this point. Everybody bitches about Rey and how good she was at everything. I even watched a top 10 today that even point blank says the problem with Rey is that there's just nothing she can't do. Okay, here's the thing. He gave midichlorians in the first of the prequels. That right there explains everything you need to. The midichlorians will make right what the universe does not have. It basically states that if the force has to be balanced, yet there's no balance to it, the midichlorians will fix that. That's basically what they explain.
Well, in a way, yes, and in a way, no.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying that as soon as you gave that out there, which he didn't even need to go into that. He could have gone with Yoda's. It's a mythical, it's in all of us. It's a part of that. He could have gone through all of that and just left that alone. George Lucas has not necessarily shown how to toe the party line that well to everybody, and so there's always been this very loose.
I would disagree with that too. Because in Clone Wars Season 6, Yoda has an experience where he does meet the Wills.
Yeah.
Or the prototype of the Wills.
Yeah.
And basically where they're it's the will of the Force taking shape to him. So
that is another thing I didn't like.
I love that episode, that arc.
I don't like the Wills because it contradicts It contradicted already established canon again. Now, well, let me explain a couple things to Chris. He said that he thought he could train him just as well as Yoda. He was wrong, right? Well, that does take place after Luke realizes who he is, first off. And yes, in a way, and also Obi-Wan says the same Jedi Master who instructed me. So, yeah. Yes, in the movies, Qui-Gon is Obi-Wan's master, but listen to what Obi-Wan says to in the beginning of Episode 1. But Master Yoda said I should always be mindful of the future. That implies that Yoda had trained him at a time. And it is even explained in the prequel lore. Yoda helped train the younglings.
Yeah, okay. But my point is that they put in there very poignantly that I thought I could train him as well as Master Yoda. Well, hold on here. If that's the case, then he trained you to a point that you thought you were able to do the same thing. If he had only been trained as a youngling, he wouldn't have thought anything about it. He'd been like, oh, well, I don't buy that either. I think there's so many inconsistencies and parts that just don't jive that it's been a problem all the way through the whole thing. Now, I think it's more glaring now than it's ever been, because when you're talking about this, and again, I'm going to say this also, George Lucas has every right to do whatever he wants to do with the series because it was his. It was his brainchild. He can fuck it up if he wants to. It's more glaring now because it's people who are doing it to things they were involved in from the beginning. You have Filoni and Favreau who have been on the Clone Wars pretty much since the beginning, as far as I know. And they're messing it up within their own series.
That is very true.
That's what
they created their own, or they created inconsistencies they never should have.
Exactly. And I mean, they've done it. They did it in Rebels, which I have not seen Rebels, so I'm not going to even go down there like I know what I'm talking about. But Rebels, I've heard they've done it.
Save yourself the aneurysm. Don't do it.
Well, the Mandalorians it goes back and forth with all sorts of different stuff in all the different instances you see Mandalorians. It's a convoluted mess because they go for 1 second. Excuse me while I take this off because it's like refracting the sun all over. It's a convoluted mess with the Mandalorians because 1 second it's this way, the next second it's this way, and I want to believe that there's somebody out there that can wrap everything to a point and say we need to rethink Star Wars in a way that if we're still doing these Disney Plus series or whatever, we need to make sure they stay as true to source material as possible while we rethink how we're going to continue this. That means do Darth Vader. I don't know if you should do Darth Maul. They've shown so much of Darth Maul in the Clone Wars and then Rebels and whatever. But you got Darth Vader, you got Obi-Wan, Yoda. You've got certain characters you can focus on. You can get those types of movies out and then figure out a way. Let's go back like Old Republic stuff, whatever. Figure out a way to reboot the idea of Star Wars. Take it back to its roots and rethink it. And I think that's I'm trying to find out who the person is that can do that.
Oh, I got him.
Find him.
I can name him.
Who?
Timothy Zahn.
Who?
Timothy Zahn.
He's a book writer. He's not a movie director.
Yeah,
but I would put him in charge of the story group because he's the one who rebooted Star Wars back in '91. He's the one who brought it back. Lucas had
He's
given
the
up
one
on
who
Star Wars
continued
at that
it. I wouldn't say it brought it back. He's the one who continued it.
Lucas had given up on Star Wars by that point. Even he thought it was a dead franchise. So
No, actually he didn't, because he was still planning he actually started planning the started planning the special edition in '90. Because he was going back to his stuff until but it took till '97 to actually get stuff going again.
What about Edwards?
Who?
Oh, 95 actually.
Garth Edwards.
But yeah,
Rogue
Tim
One.
Vaughn-
Would you pick him?
I don't
I
know.
mean, for the majority of people, not everybody, Tommy excluding, but the majority of people did love that movie. Of all the movies, all 5 put together, the one everybody would say was the best from Disney was that one. If that director did such a great job, which I thought he did, why not give this guy another shot?
Which one are you talking about?
Edwards, Garth Edwards from Rogue One.
Oh, Rogue One, yeah.
I can kind of answer some of that. I know that there was a falling out that he felt like they were trying to meddle too much into it near the end of it, if I remember right. And I think there was a falling out there. But again, I don't think, and as much as I want to see Filoni and Favreau, and I know you guys that don't necessarily want that. I mean, I guess you don't want Favreau, right? You want Filoni's okay?
Filoni, I'm
just saying.
I'd have him as a vice creative. I'd have him as a vice creative consultant.
Well, that's what I've always thought. Favreau.
You got to have Filoni. He's the one who is the understudy of Lucas. You got to have Filoni. In there. I mean,
I think
they were just you got to have.
Here was my original idea. You have oh God, now I'm gonna go blank on names. Kevin Feige will take over as the head of Pixar, Marvel, and Lucasfilm, oversee them, and then you put somebody like Filoni in charge of the creative side of Star Wars.
Yeah,
You
I
say-
would sooner have the Rostinis, the people who led the story group of the EU and reported directly to George Lucas.
The biggest
before
problem
Filoni.
with that is, I think the biggest problem with all this is we're talking about people who are more adept at certain things, like story, like the story writers, the showrunners. We're not talking about people who can actually orchestrate a day-on-day running of this company from the top down. And that's why I keep saying Filoni, because like Rob said, he was the understudy to George Lucas. George Lucas, they still talk to this day. I think George still looks at him and says, I wouldn't do it that way. And then he's kind of, they kind of try to fix stuff up. George
Listen,
Lucas
they were just on
talking to him if there was a problem there. I think George Lucas would give his blessing to that.
You put Feige in charge of Star Wars, he'll ruin it.
No. I did not say in charge of Star Wars. I just said in charge of, like, before it
You
goes.
put him in charge of Lucasfilm, he'll ruin it.
No, I'm not even talking like in charge of it with his fingers fully in it. I'm talking about more of a step down from somebody like Bob Iger, somebody that watches over the companies, but there's people in charge.
So, business standpoint, he has no creative authority.
Basically, except for he can say, I guess, no creative authority, but he's a stop before the main people if there's a question, or if he says yes, that's fine, or no, we got to go up one higher to make sure that this is still going to fly. Just making sure that things are handled in the right way. I still want him more in charge of Marvel, for better or for worse, because I know he's kind of flubbed stuff up on that too, so whatever. I'm just trying to figure out a way. Is there a way to save Star Wars?
Here's the thing. Before we get to that, I just want to say, if we watched that Star Wars show, when they were talking about season 7, who's sitting with Dave Filoni? George. Yeah. And he's and they're sitting there, buddy, chummy, no problems, you see no tension, just having fun, having a good time. If you're gonna have anybody, he has to be a part of this. You have to have people who have love of Star Wars. And I mean love, deep love of Star Wars. So when they do this, this is passion to them. This is not a job. This is not money. This is a passion. This is life. And when you have people like that, like if you look at these fan films, you know, the fans, this is passion to them. You know, they're making a film because they love it so much, and you could see the work, the effort, the talent. It's incredible. So if you have someone who has a love for their job, they're going to excel over someone who's just doing a job. And that's just how I feel.
Okay, so Orange Hat, you said there is not a way to save Star Wars.
Not currently, no.
Okay, no, I'm not talking about currently. I'm just saying there's just no way. I guarantee you.
Not
right
currently.
Now,
and maybe years down the line, possibly, but not currently.
I'm just telling you right now. Star Wars for right now is The Mandalorian, and maybe we'll get an announcement next year before Kennedy steps down, which I hope to God she does. I just have this bad feeling that with the recent events on how they've how Iger stepped down and now he's taken back over. Well, he hadn't taken back over. He's just helping the guy, whatever. I don't know. But I just got this bad feeling that this is a ploy because they're both leaving at the same time. Supposedly this is a ploy to put Kennedy in charge of Disney. Which, if
that's
that
the problem.
happens...
And that's one of the reasons.
What?
Here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. And I agree with you in some areas. Kennedy is trying to get a higher position. But here's the reason why I think Star Wars can't be saved currently. And I say currently because maybe years after all these idiots are gone, we can possibly get on the track of saving Star Wars. But right now, with the current people in charge, you are not saving Star Wars. They just greenlit Headland's female-centric Star Wars. That right there has ruined Star Wars. And here's why. Because Star Wars is not supposed to be focused on gender. Star Wars is not supposed to be focused on race or any of that stuff. When you do that, you are taking the focus away from the story. And by doing that, and they say that there's not enough representation in Star Wars, look at the original freaking trilogy. Look at episode 4. Now, true, you might not have...
No, you're absolutely right. It is not by any freaking way, shape, or form. That is a scapegoat and a cop-out to why they're changing stuff. One of your strongest female characters in cinema history is Princess Leia. Get out of my way. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. I have a mission. This is my mission. If you're on board or get off. That's how she was. And the fact that it came from somebody who was like 18, 19 years old, you cannot tell me that this whole series was nothing but diversity, nothing but equality.
Right.
Scoundrels.
You look at the quintessential businessman, Lando. Like they took a black man and made him a successful, intelligent, and savvy businessman and a loyal friend.
And they didn't even
he had told Vader no. He would have been killed, and they would have still done in Han. The fact that he cooperated gave him a chance to save Han in the future. He was still loyal. He was under the gun as much as they were, and he was making the best out of a bad situation. So I mean, it was diverse. And the only way you can talk about the slave girl outfit objectification. Then you can talk about how she used that objectification to strangle the biggest and baddest gangster in the galaxy.
Very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel sorry for the little guy's head who was in the tail. That's if you guys know your behind the scenes lore.
Yeah. Well, I think in the current times, I think with Kathleen Kennedy still being there, and think about the people that she's brought in and put in there. I think until you get a lot of those people out of there, I think there's still going to be lots of controversy. I think they're going to create problems, and they're going to make it very difficult for us to have a decent Star Wars anything. I think until those people are get bored and go somewhere else, they're going to continue to throw it in our face.
How far does Star Wars have to fall before somebody? I mean, I would hope Bob Iger, but he's not going to do it. Hold on just a second, guys. I got a super chat here.
Yep,
trying to get it up.
Yeah. Hey, over there.
I'm waiting for it on my end. I'm sorry. There we go. All right. Hail, Chris. Thank you very much. Shameless plug of my buddy Bear Nerd Fun, who is launching a new show later tonight. Well, Bear, that's awesome. We'll let you talk about that here in just a minute. Okay, I am the ever hopeful person. Okay, I mean, I don't think I make any. I don't try to shy away from it. I didn't hate The Last Jedi. I know sacrilege, whatever. I thought The Force Awakens was okay. I love Rogue One. I didn't hate Solo. I think that The Rise of Skywalker was a fault of its own for just trying to act like the other movie, like the Last Jedi didn't happen. That only added to the convoluted mess that was. But I will say it looked good. It looked like more Star Wars than I'd seen in years. It just didn't have a good. It just didn't make sense. But it's not Star Wars. It's just not Star Wars. I even said it when I did a retrospective on all three films when it came out. I went to go see it, and then I did a review on it as a trilogy. I said it's not a trilogy. It doesn't connect. There's no connectivity between one to the next that well that it holds it together like some of the other ones. And the problem with that is I want to know how we fix it, because I want it to be fixed. I want Star Wars in my life. I grew up, I was born, and 3 months later, I went to see the first film. This is a part of my life, and I know it's a part of your guys' life. And instead of sitting here being one of these people that talk about, let's throw it out, let's throw it out, let's throw it out, it's done, it's over, it's gone. No, I want to save it. Now, I don't want Disney to profit off of it in a way that, that I'm just going to buy crap. I haven't bought any of the new stuff. I have Rogue One because somebody gave it to me, but I don't own a physical copy of any of the other new ones. I'm not going to support it because I don't think it's where it needs to go, but I want to support it. I want it to be there. How do we fix it?
Here's the thing.
One step at a time, man. The only way to do it is one step at a time. You have, first off, see what the fans want. What do the fans want? They want the EU. Let's dive into the EU. Let's get the authors. Let's get the writers. Let's get them. Let's do a trilogy on the EU. That's definitely going to bring people in. You bring in those times, man, you could go forever with that. There's so many characters, the Sith, the Jedi, all of it. Tons of it. And everybody is aching for that. That is going to make you money. That guarantee will make you money, done the proper, right way with the right people, of course, That's the first thing. Hear what the fans want. Absolutely. And then you could bring in the old. You could do a Boba Fett movie in between. You could do a Vader movie. They had the right idea, just that they were pumping it out too fast without a plan. And then you have two directors who said, I'm going to chop off everything you made. Okay, so you know what? I'm going to chop off everything you made. How about that? That's what I'm going to recon you. You're going to recon me. And then they're like, oh, no, I like what they did. Baloney, you don't like what he did. You hate his guts deep down inside. You're just showing face because you want Disney to give you a paycheck. You're both mad at each other. That's pretty obvious. Everybody's lying because they just want some money in their pockets. He's got iRobots, so he wants to get what he can get from it, And that's the bottom line. They reconned each other. So just take it a step at a time. See what works. The Clone Wars is hot. Everybody loves the Clone Wars. Well, there's some you could never please. That's just how it is. That's how this fan base is. So run with what's hot. Take it one step at a time. Give the fans what they want. Then throw in, and if you want something new, great. Make a trilogy all new. You got new, you got old, and you got with the books. You're covering every angle. You're covering everything Star Wars. There you go. And that's how you do it, one step at a time. Rome wasn't built in a day. This planet wasn't built in a day. You just say, hey, let's take a step back. Let's hear everybody out. Let's hear them on YouTube. Let's hear them on Twitter. Let's see what they want, and let's bring it. Let's give all we got. Let's hire the books. Let's hire the authors. Let's put the best of the best, and let's put the best piece we can get. If we have to do it every 3 years, we do that. You know, if we have to cut some stuff out, we do it.
Chris.
Listen, they have a successful streaming service with 29 million subscribers. So they're doing something right there, whether people want to admit it or they don't. I love it. I personally love it. I think it's fantastic. I'm seeing stuff I haven't seen. I love it. So I just think one step at a time, take baby steps, and 10 years from now, you could be back in the game. That's all it takes.
Highlight Mr. Brotherfelder's comment there for a sec.
Yeah.
Because he actually makes a very good point. Star Wars was cooler when there was more mystery behind the characters.
Agreed.
And that is one thing that I will agree 100% with. They didn't always delve into the backstories of characters. They gave you some characters and whatnot. And I agree with everything Star Wars here to a point as well. Delve back into the EU legends and how they always say, and how you got these SJWs who say that it's not diverse enough. If you truly look into the EU, and I'm telling you, truly look into it, you will find that there is so much diversity that it puts this new stuff that they're trying to create to shame. There are gay characters. There are multi-raced characters. There are so many characters in the EU. They don't have the same amount in this new stuff. Look at the Mandalorians, the EU Mandalorians. They have a gay Mandalorian that is literally the second in command of the entire freaking group of Mandalorians. He is literally Boba Fett's second in command, and he's gay. So it's like, well, you got him. You have so many dark-skinned characters, people of color, people who are of Asian descent, and as well, you have people who represent sort of an all-female community. You got the Witches of Dathomir in the EU. You have a matriarchal whole consortium, which was known as the Hapes Consortium, which was run by a queen at all times. Mm-hmm. You had so much diversity and female empowerment and all that stuff done in the right way that nobody now, all these newbies, no offense to anybody who is a newbie to Star Wars, but if you truly look into the EU, you will find everything you want to see. You just got to be willing to read those books to see them. And yes, there's hundreds of books.
Oh yeah, well, the very first original property the EU did, Tales of the Jedi, had Nomi Sunrider. She went from passive life.
I think we lost the chat.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we got it back. Okay. Yeah.
All right, good. So yeah, Tales of the Jedi, Nomi Sunrider went from pacifist housewife to Jedi badass to leader of the Jedi Order eventually. Mm-hmm. That is an amazing woman. That's a story I want to read. And she destroys Rey in every category as far as an interesting character goes.
There are so many characters that can destroy Rey. There are so many characters in the EU that can destroy Rey. A Mandalorian from the EU can destroy Rey.
About keeping mystery. Let's see. Dark Empire brought Boba Fett back in 1991. And his story of how he escaped the Sarlacc wasn't told until 4 years later. Mm-hmm. That's how you keep a mystery going.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, look at Yoda. I mean, let me just touch on this 1 second, Chris. Yeah. There's a lot of people who want this whole Yoda origin story. It's like, how about you listen to the creator, George Lucas, and hear that resounding no that spans across decades.
Yeah. That's my biggest problem with Baby Yoda.
I have a question.
Because
God, yes.
Why don't they ever put a panel for the chat for everybody? Why don't they use more aliens like Nia Nub and Keith Fisto? And why, like, you look, it's all human. I'm like, okay, but you're in space. There's millions of planets. Like, you see that in Rebels and you see the different characters and in Clone Wars, but you don't get that in the movies. And I'm like, why don't we get that? You get a character here, one character here. No, man, listen, you're in a galaxy. We should have all different types in the resistance. You know, there should be all different types of creatures saying, hey, listen, my planet's under attack. I'm fighting for my planet. I'm fighting for my people. We don't get that. And we should get that more in the movies and in The Mandalorian. Just my opinion.
The other thing Star needs to do is move on.
I just think that a part of me thinks that Filoni is part of the answer here. I think that he may very well, if he were to be given the reins at Lucasfilm, he may very well do a callback and say, you know what? We screwed up when we, as Lucasfilm, took out the EU.
I'm kind of skeptical on that, but I do understand your point there.
The thing is, do it. He would, and he'd say, "Listen, this is why we got to do this. We've been acting this line. Okay, listen. Every which way you put it, every movie that they have done, every cartoon that they have done, has wrapped around one thing, and that is the Skywalker saga. Your problem right now, and especially for Disney, is you went after the one thing." Anybody who grew up with Star Wars knows at least enough about it that they can dissect parts of it and how you mess up. But a lot of us can go a lot further and dig into it a lot further and say, this is where you messed up. This is where they picked the one thing everybody knows everything about it. They had gone after something that was a little more vague that they could have built on. I mean, I still question to this day why they keep even The Mandalorian. It is based around the Skywalker saga.
Because in Hollywood today, this goes for all Hollywood. Again, they're rebooting stuff like Charlie's Angels is the second reboot. The first reboot was fine. It was decent. But, you know, you keep putting these Ghostbusters 2016, Oceans, whatever. You keep putting up these things because you have no original ideas anymore. So you bring back the old and say, oh, we'll just change something. No, man, you need to come up with some originality. And they don't got that. I don't mind if you use the old. That's fine. That's great because that grasps old people like me in. You know, you grab us in. But, you know, if you throw a little of everything, you have. See, here's this thing with Star Wars. 40 years, 4 decades of human beings. 4 decades, okay? So while I'm in my 40s and I seen it in 77 in the theater, somebody else was like, well, I wasn't born until I saw it, you know, the first one, The Phantom Menace, you know, or I wasn't born, I didn't see it until this trilogy. I understand that. That's why everybody's like, oh, this is better, that's better, this is better. See, people don't get that. Why are we at each other's necks? Because like my mother once told me, she said, my music was awesome and you guys' music sucks. And I was 19. I was like, are you crazy? What are you talking about, Ma? You know, my time is the best. It's when you had the best memories. And it has to do with your age, growing up. And that's what it is. The 20s and 30s of everybody's life is probably the best time of your lives, you know, in reality. It's probably the best. Your friends, you got family, girlfriend, this, that. Everything's going great for you usually. So, you know, everybody has their favorite moments in movie history. This is and even I won't agree with it. You won't agree with mine and vice versa and everything else. That's the problem. We got different generations, different people like different things are seeing different things. They don't know what it was in 1977 to see what I saw. It was never seen before. It was never heard of before. George opened up movies with them. He's the one who created what you have today. He put things on that screen that blew people's minds because it was never seen, ever. And people don't get that. And that's why New Hope and the original trilogy was awesome. And people are like, I don't want to hear that. It's the secret trilogy. You have no idea. If you weren't born then, you can't appreciate it now. The past is important because it makes your present and your future. I am who I am today because of people who were in my past, who are in my present, is going to make up for my future. It's everything's important. Everything is relevant to your lives, to the movie's history. And that's why the past is important.
One thing that
present is important to make a great future. That's it. We can all do this. All of us can get the Star Wars back that all of us can love if they take it easy, hear what the fans want, and bring it. That's it. That's it.
And there's a reason why.
One thing that Lucas did with episode 4 that worked is that first he borrowed some notes from Kurosawa. Star Wars basically took a loose plot from the Hidden Fortress, and R2-D2 and C-3PO are based on 2 characters from the Hidden Fortress. Then he built off those classic archetypes, put in the hero's journey, put in a few more archetypes, and then put it in a science fiction setting. But basically everything he did with that initial movie was based on history, on characters that resonated through culture, through and beyond cultures. That's why it works so well. That's why Star Wars is loved internationally.
Well, yeah.
It's tapped into characters and archetypes that go beyond generations and cultures. Disney is failing because they are basing everything on modern day politics.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're not looking at the basics of storytelling. They're not looking at the fundamentals. They're looking at, okay, what's hip and new today? And even if you look at Clone Wars, Lucas did homages to Jaws, Apocalypse Now, Godzilla, King Kong, Rashomon, The Seven Samurai, Sam Spade. I can go on and on about the references George Lucas did in Clone Wars. He was
the second season was full of them.
He would again, the Return to Geonosis arc, you had Night of the Living Dead, and you had like A Bridge Too Far and other World War II movies. Lucas loved cinema, and he referenced and showed that love for cinema time and again. And that's why his stories to something that resonates through culture and history. Disney is just focusing on what's hip today. And that's why they're failing so bad.
Yeah. I agree with that completely. I think that, again, yes, I mean, that makes so much sense. It's so easy to see. I mean, the other thing, and this is going to sound kind of counterintuitive to something we've already said, I don't think George Lucas ever questioned completely something he did. I know he backed off of Jar Jar Binks, but he still had Jar Jar there. But as soon as people, and again, right or wrong, whatever you thought about the movie, as soon as people started dumping and crawling and climbing and ripping apart The Last Jedi, J.J. Abrams was basically looking, how can I make this movie go away? Unfortunately, that is kind of what doomed The Rise of Skywalker. One of the things that did it. Because they retconned the whole damn thing. I had plenty of different ways they could have made it work. But they weren't intuitive, nor were they imaginative enough to do that.
Trevorrow would have done a good job with it. I mean, if you look at all the stuff that Trevorrow did, and all of his stuff, that would have been that would have acknowledged some of the stuff from episode 8, and it would have paid homage to it as well, and it would have also had a better feel, and it would have connected the earlier sequence or the earlier continuities as well.
Yeah.
Except that they didn't because of creative differences, and they didn't want Luke Skywalker back.
Yeah, well, I always said the easiest way to have fixed it, Luke Skywalker, everything you saw before episode 9 was all just a vision, a force vision in Luke Skywalker's head. And that as soon as he comes out of whatever the trance is, whatever he does, he decides I have to fix this before it happens.
That would be an interesting thing.
You don't kill him. You can honor. You can have your group picture with, Leia, Han. Everybody could have still been there. It doesn't retcon it. It just says it didn't happen.
Well, here's the thing. It's a war, right? So people in a war, unfortunately, people die. I mean, it's part of a war. If Luke would have died in episode 9, let's say Snoke was gonna whatever, and he sacrificed himself, and then Rey ends up winning somehow, or whatever, then fine. I think I would have accepted it more had he died in 9. Even with his sister, it could have been him and his sister sacrificed themselves somehow, some way, and I would have been with that. I would have been fine with that. Mm-hmm. But the way they did, it was like, okay, you're a failure, and your marriage is a failure, and you failed your kid, and you're a hermit, and okay, so you take milk out of a creature's breast, and we'll show that. Like, what are you trying to humiliate the guy? It's like, how humiliating are you going to? And then why would you make a map? Make a map.
That was the point of it. They wanted wanted to drag Luke through the mud.
Yeah, no, why would you make a map to be found, and if you didn't want to be found anyway? So how does that make any sense? Oh, I made a map so they could find me if they need me, and then you find me. Yeah, what are you doing here? Get out of here. Go away. Like, what? Huh? Wait a minute. Weren't you Luke that went in The Empire Strikes Back that said, hey, look, Yoda, I've got to go. I know my friends are in trouble. My friends are in trouble. Hello? My friends. He didn't even know that was his sister. My friends are in trouble. Now it's the Luke that we got. The Luke that was like, yeah, I don't care. Whatever. Everybody could die. Who cares? I'm going to die. Everybody dies. Like, the Force balances itself. So he's trying to, I'm sorry, Chris. He's just trying to, he's saying, well, I tried to hide so the dark side wouldn't grow. But you should know from the books and everything, all these teachings, you're a master. You know that when the Force rises, the dark rises, and vice versa. Seriously.
Yep.
Okay, guys. I'm going to have to wrap this up because I'm about ready to have to clean up everything around here and shut down for the day before I leave from work. I've been here since 3 a.m. So,
wow.
Yeah, I know.
I could have swore I thought you'd taken 2-second nods here and there.
Never know. I want to bring Orange back here. He dropped out and he's back. I want to give you guys a chance to plug your channels, plug Twitter, tell people about yourself. Chad, I know you got a show that you're going to be doing here soon, I think, Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah, I've been wondering if you'd be interested in joining me for that live stream.
Perhaps. We'll have to talk. Message me on Twitter and we can talk about that. Bear, you've got a new show you're starting. I want you guys to talk about what you're doing. Talk about some stuff. Take a few minutes. We'll start with you, Chad. Go ahead.
All right. Well, basically, you can find me on my channel. The Chat is Great. It's been inactive for a while, as I've been focusing on a few things. But I do want to do a few streams coming up on some recent news, and so hopefully in the coming week, look for that. Again, that's on The Chat is Great.
Yeah. All right. Bear, go ahead and tell everybody about yourself, where they can find you, and talk about your new show.
Yeah, I've got a couple different formats that I'm using, 2 different shows. There is that I used to do the Fourth Wave Late Edition. Now it's the late edition, and it's basically the same format, only the names changed a little bit. And there is the other show. It's sort of like UFOs, nerd stuff, and everything that goes bump in the night mixed in. And a little tiny bit of conspiracy stuff, the stuff like UFOs and stuff like that. And it's called the 4 Horsemen. And there's the 4 Horsemen that go after bad entertainment, and then there's the 4 Horsemen that go for different stuff that go bump in the night. And the late edition also can meander all over the place, but basically just having a good old time talking about nerd stuff and UFOs and stuff like that.
Cool.
So that I'm gonna run a test run of that later tonight.
Okay.
9 p.m. Pacific time, or whatever time people agree on.
Okay.
they can show up for it.
Cool. Excellent. All right, Rob, everything Star Wars. Go ahead and tell them what you've been working on, what you got.
Okay, the name, like the title, everything Star Wars. The name is Rob. First off, thanks, Chris, having me on. I really appreciate it. Panel, you guys have been great. Orange Hat, I've seen you in another stream. And Bear, you supported me a couple times. I really appreciate it. Don't think I haven't. I really do. Basically, my channel is exactly what we're talking about here. Star Wars, Mandalorian, Galaxy's Edge, you name it. I do Battlefront 2 live streaming, which I'm going to do. I have a whole crew tonight. We're going to be doing that later on. The videos, we're talking about, I guess, the Mandalorian, now that that's news, whatever's out there. We'll be talking about lore, old things, questions, why this happened, why that happened. That's what it's all about, and hopefully, like you said, Chris, I'm praying. I have hope, like Leia says, that this will get a lot better in the future. That's all I hope, because I don't want to see it die either. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
No problem. Rob, give me a message too. I have something to throw your way to talk about. We'll talk about it on in a Twitter, in a DM or something. Thank you for coming on also. Orange Hat, go ahead and tell them about yourself and what you've been working on, what you got going on.
Well, I do entertainment news. I do movie reviews. I just recently did a review on my absolute favorite movie of all time. It's called Finding Forrester. Tonight, I am continuing my versus streams that I do every 2 weeks. Last week's was Chun-Li versus Black Widow. This week, or 2 weeks ago, it was Chun-Li versus Black Widow. Tonight's is the EU Mandalorians versus a xenomorph army from Aliens. And I do this every 2 weeks, and 2 weeks from tonight is going to be the big one of the month. It's going to be Emperor Palpatine versus Emperor Vitiate from the EU lore. And yeah, every 2 weeks I do versus streams. It's become a staple for my channel. I absolutely love doing them. Tonight I got Ryan Kennel, OG Star Wars, The Ambassador, and Annihilus. We're going to be talking it and hopefully have a lot of fun.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you all for coming on today. As you guys might know, those of you who are watching, this is the weekly wrap up. So what I normally do is I start with what I did this week, the people I streamed with, and then I throw the chat. I throw it out in different chats. I throw the link out there, and that's why I have this panel. So if you guys like this panel, you go check them out. You go sub to them because they came in here. I did not go after them. They came in here, and I'm glad they did. We had a great conversation on Star Wars today. Started with some Mandalorian. Talked a little bit about the Labyrinth, but as soon as that got broke that they were going to be bringing Boba Fett, I'm sitting here going like, dear God, why now? Why not last year before this came out? Anyways, guys, thank you so very much. I really appreciate you guys coming on. I always appreciate my guests. Again, their links are not down in the description yet. I will make sure I get them on as soon as I possibly can. But it's easy enough to find most of them. You can go on Twitter. You can type in like everything Star Wars, Bear Nerd Fun, the Chad. Like I said, you can look these guys up by what you see their names as, and you'll probably find them somehow, some way. But I'll make sure I get those links down in the description below for you guys.
And just to FYI, Chris,
yes.
You know how you can click on the chat and go to people's channels?
Yes.
YouTube has removed that function. You can't do that anymore.
I know.
That's stupid.
I don't know why they did that. I have a feeling it's gone back to the AI thing. I think they took a lot of that stuff away right now while this is all going on until they get people actually back in there, because I think that there was a lot of problems going on. It was causing a lot of server overloads and stuff.
Because basically, if you're a wrench, you need to be able to go look at that person's channel if you're going to ban them or something to make sure that they're an actual real person and not a bot.
Yeah.
And it makes things harder for me to figure out, hey, should I just time this guy out or should I just ban this person?
Yeah. No, it
helps to be able to see their homepage on their channel.
Yeah, that's a conversation for another day about all the stuff YouTube is changing right now. But hopefully that'll get back to normal too. We'll see.
And I'm pretty much everybody in the chat. If you're not subbed to these guys, make sure you do, because I'm pretty sure I'm subbed to everybody on this panel.
And last thing right here, we got a super chat, and it's coming up right now. Orville Nation, $2 super chat. It's so stupid. It is. It is. All the stuff they're doing right now. Oh God, it hurts my mind every day. Okay, well, hold on. Let's wait for. They'll bring back. If I don't know, my computer's so slow right now. There he is. Okay, I'm gonna close that down now. And I got you guys all out there. You guys have told everybody what you need to tell them. I'm trying to hide this super chat. Okay, there we go. Okay, and again, Orville, thank you very much for doing that. So, with that said, guys, I am Chris Knight. This has been the Real Review 3000. Thank you to all my panelists. I greatly appreciate you guys very, very much. Everybody say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thanks for checking us out. Be sure to subscribe to both channels, and make sure to check out our friends in the Fandom Minutes. You can find us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and BitChute, and you can also send us an email at sean@seanstackhousereacts.com and chrisknight@therealreview3000.com. Be sure to swing by our Teespring store to pick up some awesome merchandise.